that match. Can you imagine Gary Kasparov not beating a player after playing that many games? But that's indeed what happened. He also introduced the Berlin defense to modern chess. And there we go. We are off, and we're going to watch this game, folks. It should be extremely exciting.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, focus. After all, MPL is considered one of the very, very best blitz players in the world. Vladimir Kramnik was a great classical chess player, no question about it. We'll see what kind of form he's in for the blitz portion as Etienne F5. That is a very strange move. This particular position, this particular order, as they E7, E5, by hitting on triangle formation. It's so common, it's almost a rigor, so to speak. F5. Okay, these players are going in trailblazing different moves here. E7 and bishop H3.
You would think is the point behind bishop F5 in the first place.
Exchange off.
But instead he just brought his knight into the game. And sooner or later this queen will go to D7 and take advantage of the early bishop leaving in the board. But although he castle first, it looks like he has castle. Whoa! You heard that Fabiano Caruana and Wesley So have already drawn, making sure he puts pressure on his opponents to try to catch him. And once again, we're waiting for a move here by
2-4 strikes me as the most consequential. After all, with the double in general of the bishop, you've got to open up the position for the bishops. And if you don't play E2-4, like I think he was stuck for a reason because he wanted to make sure MPL did that he had a good answer for the reaction of the performance. Glad plays that.
94 looks really like a good move in the moment. And instead he's captured directly on D4. Knight takes will be almost automatic. And there we go. And a second capture on D4 we will take.
Now the knight on F5. And if there's a purpose to go bishop F5, it has to be a certain
and there's no funny queen sack on G7. You like to play sometimes a dynamic sacrifice that wins, but this looks like a lot of trades happening, Yaz,
exactly.
And no real advantage to white in this position. This big blind is showing his skill and his novelty of bishop F5, or at least, maybe not a novelty, but that unorthodox move seems to have borne fruit.
You know, it's strange. I like the small advantages and the way I advantages, and this is the way the grandmasters the victory. There's very, very small advantages to try to milk them as best they can. Now, having said that, how big is White's advantage? Not that much. But I do feel that given a choice,
sure, given a choice. Given a choice, indeed you have to play a position. But Vladimir Kramnik has been drawing these kind of positions for decades, in fact. And he's looking at this and saying, what's your plan? But the point you're making, though, is what's your plan, Black? What should you be doing? I'm thinking that Black needs to somehow execute B5, and as soon as I said it, I didn't even make a move, just B5.
Right.
And they played A4 to stop it, and now A5 on the board. He's going to set up a dark square blockade. Is Black on the queen side and get that C5 square for one of the pieces? Indeed, the bishop on G2 is applying some pressure, but there will be a pawn on B6 quite soon after this rook moves. And there is some space for white. He does have his backward pawn on D3 that you cannot really get at.
The way I would do it if I was white is I would put my rook on D4 and look on what's the idea of rook on D4? Well, I'm intimating that there might be a sudden switch to the king side with rook D4, A6, rook H4. After the move H4, now I think that white's advantage is I don't like these last two moves at all. H4, 5. Okay, well, if I capture that pawn and put the bishop back,
interesting turn of events there.
Yeah, big time. And I'm not a big fan of what MPL has done. After this move, rook e5, e6, it's simplistic. It's just to drop out. Also, c7 starts to get interesting. The queen on c7 is actually placed. I'd love it to be on g7 square. So
here we go. E6. Does he have a sacrifice in him on f5? I think that's a little bit too ambitious. But rook to b5, insisting on staying in touch on this rank. You're not liking this line? Yes.
Not at all. I'm glad it's not played. 65.
It's like a great. And you suggested it. I liked it.
I like it a lot.
Big Blood didn't take long to say I'm playing this move. And this move
is starting to feel like black is
white. What does white have?
Exactly. Right now, and the worst part about it, black could just play h5, h4, giving them back on, so that double h pawn can become used.
Well, what about rook d8? Just since here,
rook d8. I also like just isolating the pawn.
Isolating on h4. That's a very good point as well. Can we just do something in the center? What would just happen? So maybe I want to see forward. But the difference, though, is the clock. Well, he is down a minute on the clock. Obviously, Maxime has been playing for some time. So Vlad at 1.5 and has to get into the competition.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'd been playing a lot of blitz before he came here.
Right.
But it's nothing like playing against the actual strongest players in the world if you're going to warm up. So whatever preparation he had before now, it's okay, but not necessarily going to get you completely ready for real-time competition. And this move, Queen b7 looks unusual, allowing rook takes on b6 followed by a runaway c pawn. I'm a little bit surprised by that decision.
No question about it. That's a very interesting decision. I mean, yeah, you get your pass pawn too. I mean, it's important. Without a thinking on this c pawn is far more dangerous than this a pawn. So I don't like that decision. I like everything that Vladimir had done up to that move, Queen b7. I would have gone with rook d8. Here's that move, h4, and there's the connection that Vladimir saw. He understood he's giving up a runaway c pawn. Now putting his extra c7 pawn purpose.
Capture on the square, no? Take on g3.
I'm not sure
Immediately,
because keep going. That means that c7 is going to be, well, he's done it. It's allowed me to g3 check and c7.
King to h8. I don't believe his attack.
No, I don't either. I'm thinking this is white all day, all the way. Rook d8 on tap, bishop e7. That rook on c8 is going to have to go.
He's getting a war of hurt right now that I should never have allowed the capture on b6. The c pawn is too strong.
That's right. Really did not benefit him at all. And he's invited rook d8 as Vladimir just played. He's going to e7.
He's going to have to challenge that rook on b8. Remember, folks, the queen on g3 is guarding the square b8. It doesn't look like it is, but on that entire long diagonal, the queen is guarding all the way down. So if the rook goes to b8, it is safe to go there because the queen is helping the pawn to guard that rook. So rook b8 is possible, but this queen b4, hoping to be able to get back to a7 and challenge that rook. If it goes there, rook d6 instead has been played. It is a surprise move, allowing his other rook to be attacked on the b1 square, and now queen c3 check, forcing a trade of queen off the board. Can he challenge
the bishop
the no, bishop e7 is too strong. Now he's dropping an exchange, and good point.
e5.
Good point. e5 guards c8.
He's made room, but here, white back up with the rook and pick off his pawn on a5.
There is a rook d5, but rook d5 is met by bishop to e4.
Good point.
So that's
Rook
not
A6, sorry.
So rook a6 would be wiser, but you know, if it's just one pawn on c7, I mean, it is obviously a pawn on c7.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
Don't get me wrong. But if you can trade off bishops, per se, and put a rook on c8 and one on e7, you might fashion some sort of default system, right? So here, if he can, this is what I was talking about. That's one trade, and after this capture, now play rook e8 and put the rook on e7, or you just played f6 with the idea of putting the rook to f7. And it's very hard to actually make this pawn go anywhere. You need the white king to come into the act, and the black king can also help out as well. So Vladimir has created some kind of defensive fortress. He cannot win the c pawn by direct means, although maybe he can get his. Isn't that rook c7? Yes. So this is the difficulty. How does white break this position, break this defensive set of h5, chasing it back, and now you can just hang out with this rook? How do you win this game? You know, this is the position where you traded off the light square bishop. That was the key.
Yeah, you can play rook e5, rook a5, and a pawn, and that's it. You go anywhere with it.
And Vladimir getting behind his pass pawn.
And saying,
don't forget, I got a pass pawn here as well. And Patrick has drawn his game against Bradford, and this I don't think is, but he has decided finally to capture, and he said, let's go. You want to trade? Whoa, a little uncertainty there. And wait a minute, this should not be winning.
Oh, no.
The rook is going to f5, thankfully, for white. The rook is headed to f5. There it is. And now, an offer of a trade. He said, no, can't do, not yet. But this is possible. No, you can have the h-pawn. He doesn't care. Giving up the h-pawn, and this should be a technical draw, folks. Over, and he's just going to hang out, as this is a technical rook and pawn ending that is a draw. Vladimir has drawn these in his sleep. We see Alireza not Vladimir. This is so drawn. He's like, you can do whatever you like. I am not going to lose this one. I've been drawing these since the 90s, since you were a babe, maybe before you were
F5. Oh, he missed an opportunity. Force it to pawn.
Oh, he's there, and now f5 played, and now it's time to check. And here comes that white king, but it's not going to 7. We should stop that. And the Monteronian has defeated Peter Spindler. I'm sure Almira and Christian will be ready with that shortly. Vladimir being bumbling a little bit as he's playing.
I think that shows some rust. I mean, normally this is
well, he's only got 5 seconds left, so someone's going to fluid movements.
Yeah.
He's got to hurry. Oh no! What is this? Rook c7 and
e6, and I'm okay.
Oh boy!
Whoa! Am I okay?
That was a dangerous trade to offer in that position for sure. But now
we were joking that Ali Farouja could learn a thing or two about his rook on endings.
It's his time that he's playing against, though. He's having only 7 seconds. He can gain time on the clock when it's only a 2-second increment. That's been causing him difficulty. It takes a little time to move the chess pieces. So we're back to this again, this position. No progress so far for white. He just has to make a move. Oh, that's a nice idea. Stay on that pawn, and what does the rook do? And he's going to torture his MPL. He's just going to keep torturing him. He's up the pawn. No losing chances for him. Force his opponent to defend and defend. Run up to 10 seconds now for the rook.
That very quickly. Now some checks.
And now some checks. And another check. And this is looking so drawn. Someday the king now coming all the way back to deal with this annoying rook. But that's just can't get the job done. Now he's threatening to cut the king off on the 3rd ring. He gets to play rook to b3. And the king now says, let me go up, but he can check him. Can't he? Okay, he's taking too long right here.
Yeah, okay, I was about to say, rook e1 looks like the same.
What? Where's that king going? What is this? Rook takes
check.
That's gotta be good. What? He didn't take it. He didn't want to get king to h5.
And that was nothing. King to h5, rook 4, G6, rook D6. The play looked like fun.
And another attempt with this move, that's a capture.
Of course.
And now the king is headed to the f6 square, but not going to be any good because rook h6 check. Okay, this is the last chance in this type of ending, but
E3.
no, he knows this.
No, what do you say? No.
No, but this has to be a draw.
Yeah,
this
of
has
course.
to be a draw because of the extra pawn on the board. They're not going to win this position.
Yeah, now he's planning to play.
Yes, make his own threat.
So that means that the king.
His time is done. He's lost on time.
Oh.
Unbelievable. The hesitation has caused him to lose on the clock.
Yes, he has lost on
He
time.
has lost on time. No question about it. It's over. That is
the arbiter interjected. It happened, and they played a few moves with the
played a
time
couple of
and
moves.
zero.